When and where you start depends on how much skill and capital you have. For this guide's purposes, I will assume you have done enough Beef and Labyrinth, as well as any other Chaos Key events in the future, to get several stags. I will be skipping Overworld and Nether boss hunting, since they are not as fast as End boss hunting. Before I start the guide, I trust you already have some knowledge of how the server works, including how to sharpen, what bosses are, how the economy works, and the value of most items. In case it isn't apparent, more guides will be coming out in the future for some aspects of Minewind, so be on the lookout for when the next guide drops. Additionally, this is a bare bones guide, meaning for the sake of time, I will not be covering everything related to boss hunting, and I will be quick about explaining things. Anyways, on with the boss hunting guide. Boss hunting can make 6 stags an hour, with potential for way more depending on how lucky you are. I assume you are at least somewhat familiar with bosses by the time you get to this guide, but just in case you aren't, let me give you a quick rundown. Bosses are mobs with way more health points, unique spells and abilities, and that always drop some kind of loot upon death. You can always tell if something is a boss by the boss bar at the top of your screen, as well as the name tag that is visible. Parties are the backbone of boss hunting. This is because of a 33% loot bonus to loot within a party, and an additive 133% loot bonus per person within 80 blocks of a boss that is killed, up to 666% loot with 4 more people within the 80 blocks. The goal here is to have 4 other people within 80 blocks of you, but without needing to split the loot. How do you do that, you may say? Well, you can use your friends and have them AFK for your loot bonus. To set up an end party, either find an existing one or make your own. How do you make your own? You need 3 people or accounts. Have one account stay in the overworld or nether party, and check the subserver, then go to the end of that subserver on your main account. From there, teleport another account to you in the end, and do /back twice. If you did this correctly and the first account did not leave the party by dying or otherwise, you have an end party and you are in the end. To finish setting up your end party, find a big end island, preferably big and round or very long. Then, you have your friends AFK in the center of the island. If you want, you can claim the land or kill them without pressing respawn in order to keep them in place and prevent people from moving or messing with them. When killing bosses in a party, a rolling system comes into play. To briefly explain it, pass is for when you do not want the item. Greed is for if you want the item, but not over people who need it. And need is what you hit if you want the item. I would, however, just recommend you either don't roll or roll need. Left click to select the option you want. If nothing is selected, the item drops on the ground. This guide will go into your optimal clean setups to farm bosses and keep the island in semi-pristine condition. While being careful allows you to farm in one spot for a few hours, you still need to move to another island periodically to keep efficiency up. Before farming, it is important to warn you that doing the wrong things can ruin your reputation on the server really quickly. There are a couple things you should never do while in a party. If you violate these norms, you may end up paying for it sooner or later. Never roll or take others' loot. This is known as loot scooping. Never farm in a setup area without permission. This is known as leeching. Never steal bosses if you can help it. It is self-explanatory that the first one to the boss gets to kill it. First up to start boss hunting, Dimension Anomaly. This setup costs 6 to 10 stags. It is recommended for early boss hunting in the end, but ditch it for one of the next setups as soon as you can. The first component is the essence of Flying Turtle. Get it and use it to drag bosses into the range of your proximity bonus. Right click from 2 blocks away and at the feet of the boss. Then fly it to the ground and in the range. Sneak to drop it, making sure that you are no more than half a block in the air. No Flying Panda, since it drops from higher and always drops too high. You will also need a Dimension Anomaly tool, a Multiflame tool or essence, some Zords, and some fire tools. To use these, right-click with Dimension Anomaly at the feet of the boss, then shoot at the boss with the Multiflame tool, moving your aim from the boss to above the Dimension Anomaly. This will kill the boss really quick. Have the Zords and fire tools in your inventory for some fire and dimension souls, playing around with how many of each you want. Just know fire souls take a shorter amount of time to regenerate, and you generally need more dimension souls per boss. You can also kill multiple bosses at the same time with this setup by aiming at both of them with Multiflame before aiming at the anomaly. You will need an Elytra and a Jump Router tool for getting from boss to boss quickly. This setup will make you a few stags an hour, so use it to get you one of the next setups. You will want some of the same gear for the next two setups. You will want the aforementioned flying turtle. You will also want a Sharpness 20 Baphomet for dealing with mass boss summons, optionally with Lifesteal 1. You will also want a Lava and Water Eater tool for cleaning up mistakes. Right-click Water or Lava Eater respectively to use these. You will additionally want a Mob Spawnable Infinity Block, again to clean up mistakes and change Snow and Magma blocks to spawnable blocks. Shift right-click out of placing range to replace groups of blocks. You will also want an Instamine tool for getting out of ice traps and other structures the bosses spawn. You will additionally want Edgelord's Leggings or another pair of leggings with Strength 2 or greater. You will also want Orc Hero or Dragon Knight's wings for flying and Strength 2, making Strength 4. You will also want a Jump Tool or Rod. Finally, you will want God Apples in your hotbar for extra security. After you get this gear, you will want to choose one of the next setups and use it indefinitely. While there are other setups out there, these are the most reliable, cleanest, quickest, and cheapest I have found. For the first setup, you will want an offhand with Backstab 2, Bloodlust, and Critical Plus. You will also want a Sharpness 30 Frostmaster's Blade with Melee 2 or greater in your main hand. This should cost around 1 2/3 shags on top of the universal gear. Your strategy is to try and backstab the bosses. If you cannot backstab in the moment, crit them out. If you choose a second setup, you will want an offhand Frostmaster's Blade with Melee 2 or greater. You will also want a Sharpness 30 Axe or Sword with Critical Plus, Deathclaw Critical, and Bloodlust. This will also cost around 1 2/3 shags on top of the universal gear. Your strategy for this setup is just to crit the boss, and clean up the flowers to make sure you don't aggro the bosses who walk into them. As for tips to make the process more streamlined, I have many. I recommend a pumpkin head with a removed overlay from a mod or texture pack to farm in the end, as without it you will be constantly swarmed. If you have AFK friends, install Zero's minimap to make a waypoint where the accounts are, and see how far away you are from them. Install better name tags in order to better see the name tags of bosses and be more efficient. Have your friends install and use FPS Reducer to not eat up resources when running their accounts on their computers. If a snow mage spawns, strafe it in midair and go to hit it several times in order to kill it. Yes, they are very annoying. Archmage bosses are some of the most important to one-shot, as they do have every ability. If you are having trouble finding a big island, use Chunk Base in the seed indicator in order to put the seed and coordinates in and find big islands near you. If you die, you can go back to the party by doing /party and or using the emerald block to switch back to your party. If you are having trouble getting bosses to spawn on an island, leave the chunks and come back. If several people are farming on the same island and have AFK friend accounts, have both of you circle the accounts 100 blocks out and come in only when you see a boss, going back out again once you no longer see any bosses. Make sure your island is big enough to support the people that are actively farming. It will always feel and be very slow if you stress an island. You can tell you need to switch islands when the ground is not flat anymore within the range. I have made this point before and I will make it again. Do not be toxic, loot scoop, or leech if you want a good reputation on the server and don't want to risk being KOS, killed on sight, at spawn. You cannot turtle invisible bosses, so you will need to kill them on the spot, regardless of whether or not they are in range. And finally, if you win a roll but do not have any inventory space, the item will go into your /claim.